Great Queen, Phantom Queen, Queen of Demons, epitaphs which all belong to the Morrigan. In Celtic mythology, she is a goddess of battle, strife, and fertility that can take the form of a goddess and of three goddesses. The three aspects of the Morrigan will differ from source to source, but the most commonly accepted variation by modern sources are Ba, who is the mother aspect of the Morrigan, symbolizing life, enlightenment, wisdom, and inspiration. The name Ba means boiling, battle raven, and skulled crow. Sister goddess to Ba, Maka, another goddess of war, but also life, death, cunning, and sheer physical force. She is also known as she often appears as either bird and wore a cloak of raven feathers. Lastly, there is Nemean, meaning panic, and surprise surprise, she is also a goddess of war. Now there is the goddess Anu, the manifestation of magic, moon, air, fertility, and prosperity. She is the Mother Earth goddess and maiden aspect of Morrigu, which means Morrigan. In some texts, Nemean is switched with Maka to form the trio, but the Morrigan usually has a maiden aspect, a mother aspect, and a crone aspect when formed. Being such an important goddess, the Morrigan is also the wife of the Allfather, Dagda. The Morrigan shares many similarities with Norse Valkyries. Through magic, both the Morrigan and the Valkyries decide who lives and who dies. It was believed that the Morrigan flew over battlefields in the form of a crow or raven, and had the power to influence the outcome of a conflict. When she took the form of the Rosha, being one of her many guises, it was said that the clothes of the men washed by the Morrigan were close to their deaths in battle. In other words, she could decide who survived. During the second battle of Magtareed, the Morrigan said she would go and destroy Indek, son of Dedomna, and deprive him of the blood of his heart and the kidneys of his valor. And she gave 2 handfuls of that blood to the hosts. When Indek later appeared in battle, he was already doomed. The function of the goddess, the Morrigan, may not necessarily be to slay the hero with weapons, but also to render him helpless at a crucial point in battle, like the Valkyries who cast the fetters upon warriors. Thus, both in Irish and Scandinavian literature, we have a conception of females being associated with battle, both fierce and erotic. Sleeping deeply after a long day of battle, a great shout emanating from the north, which in Celtic legend is the realm of the dead, justice, and earth element, startled Cuchulainn awake. He instructed his charioteer to prepare the chariot, so that he may seek out the source of this cry. North they travelled, and crossed paths with a woman riding towards them in another chariot. She wore a dress and a long red cloak, had red hair and eyebrows, and carried a long grey spear. Cuchulainn greeted this woman and asked her who she was, and she replied that she was the daughter of a king called Barn, the Eternal One, who had fallen in love with him after hearing about his deeds. Cuchulainn, however, did not recognize the woman as an incarnation of the goddess, and profusely replied that he had better things to do than concern himself with a woman's love. The Morrigan replied that she had been helping him throughout his combats, and that she would continue to do so in return for his love. Cuchulainn arrogantly replied that he did not need the help of any woman in battle. "If you will not have my love and help, then you shall have my hatred and enmity," she said. "When you are in combat with an enemy as good as yourself, I shall come against you in many shapes and hinder you until your opponent has the advantage." Cuchulainn drew his sword to attack this threatening woman, but saw only a crow sitting on a branch. The crow was the totem bird of the goddess, finally realized that he had rejected the help of the fearsome Morrigan. On the following day, Cuchulainn met a great warrior, Loch, in battle. Loch scorned him as a beardless youth and refused to fight him. So Cuchulainn rubbed blackberry juice into his chin until it appeared darkened with a growing beard. He also set an incarnation over some grasses, and they adhered to his chin. Then he found out what it was like to be on the wrong side of the Morrigan. While he was in combat with Locke, she came against him 3 times. The first was in the shape of a red-eared heifer who tried to knock him over. The second was in the shape of an eel that wrapped itself around his legs as he stood in the stream. And the third time, she came against him as a grey wolf that grabbed his sword arm. Each time, his opponent gained an advantage and managed to strike. However, he also managed to strike back at the goddess in her forms. He broke the heifer's leg and trampled on the eel and poked out the eye of the wolf. In spite of his worsening odds against Locke, he finally managed to kill him with his magical spear, the Gaebolga. After he had killed Locke, the Morrigan appeared to him again in the form of an old crone who was milking a cow with 3 teats. Cuchulainn requested a drink of milk from her. She gave him a drink from the first teat, but that did not quench his thirst. So he gave him a drink from the second teat, but still his thirst was unquenched. And then she gave him a drink from the third teat. Finally, his thirst was quenched, and he was grateful to the old woman and asked what reward she wanted. She requested that he heal the wounds that he had inflicted on her whilst she was in animal guises, as only Cuchulainn could heal the wounds which he had caused, which he graciously did. She appeared to him after that on the day of his death in the form of 3 old crones who tricked him into eating a piece of cooked dog, which was a food forbidden to him. Thus, he broke a geas, an obligation or prohibition magically imposed on a person, and this was extremely unfortunate. After eating the meat, he lost his mighty strength in his left arm, causing the meat to fall onto his left leg. This also lost its great strength, causing his entire left side to be no mightier than that of a normal man. After he had been killed in battle, the Morrigan appeared as the crow, which landed on his shoulder. The in-game Smite lore of the Morrigan does not actually differ too much from what we've covered so far. It reads as follows. Fate is an unusual thing, an unseen force predicting every action of every living thing. Some deities can see it, recognizing the flow of the plan. There are none save one that claims mastery over it, that manipulates it with such cold intent, steers it ever toward war and the red demise of heroes. In truth, she is many goddesses, with many names and many forms, but there is only one title, the Morrigan. Anu, Maka, Ba. Individually, these 3 goddesses were sisters, progenitors of sovereignty, war, and death. They were caretakers of their lush green ire, champions for armored soldiers, guides for the deceased. It is unknown what bound them together, some whispered cursed, some lovers scorn, some dark power or dark purpose, but now they are one. She's been seen in many shapes, the lucid seductress, the wrinkled hag, the screaming crow, and worst of all, the washer in the river. For those who witness her cleaning their bloody armor, prophesizes a violent end, subtle and manipulative. There is no war the Morrigan did not incite, no dying breath that she did not collect. Even this war, a war between gods, must secretly be of her making. So beware, those that behold her, for the Morrigan controls your fate. As you might be able to tell, there was actually quite a bit Hi-Rez could have done with her kit besides what they did, and don't get me wrong, I really like the Morrigan's kit the way it is. In fact, she might actually become my favorite god in Smite. In case you're wondering, my favorite god overall is Ao Kuang. It's partially because Ao Kuang is a magical assassin, and I've always wanted to see a magical ranged assassin ever since Ao Kuang was put into the game. And to an extent, I kind of saw Freya as that, but not really. But the Morrigan can truly be that, for me at least. After reading some of her lore, there was a post on Reddit about a potential kit that Odin could have had, which fits more of his lore, and the passive for this kit allowed a raven to soar over the battlefield and act as a ward, and it would circle the map, warding areas. And if it got near to a god or an enemy, it would lower their protections or something along those lines. That could have been a really cool passive for the Morrigan. Maka specifically seems to be quite linked to crows and ravens. So, tell me what you thought of this video, and I genuinely mean it this time. I know I say that at the end of pretty much every video, but with this one, I mean, the original plan for the channel was to genuinely make it a lore channel. I didn't do that, obviously, but I suppose this is probably the first lore video that I've made. I think. So, yeah. If you'd like to see more, definitely tell me in the comment section below, and of course leave a like. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, and of course tell me that you liked this content for more, as this is of course the first lore video that I've made for the channel. If you think there's any way that I could improve this video at all, leave that in the comment section below. Maybe pronunciation errors, I'm open to changing those, learning how to say things properly in the future. If you made it this far, then I'm hoping that it wasn't too bad. And if you really did enjoy it, consider sharing the video, as that could really help get more likes on the video, which means I get the next one out sooner. As well as telling me that you want another one, and potentially telling me if there's anything you want me to improve. Could you also let me know what god you'd like to see next, if you do want to see another one of these? Because I really haven't planned for that. This video in and of itself is really just an experiment. A very lengthy experiment. I don't think I've made a video this long where I'm just purely talking. So, that's a thing. And on that note, until next time, have a nice day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.